In life, you have a lot of firsts. Your first pet. Mine was a goldfish called Goldie. Not a very imaginative name, but I was only 3. Should have called him Wet Wipe really, because he also ended up being flushed down the toilet when perhaps he shouldn't. The first album that you bought with your own money. Mine was Kylie's first album. Not listened to that for years actually. Wonder if it's still any good. Don't judge me. I was 14. It was Kylie. Your first kiss. Mine was with Bella. I loved that teddy bear. Your first instrument. This was mine. I bought this over 20 years ago for about 100 quid. Bet it sounds rubbish now. It sounds alright, I suppose.
It's not even plugged in.
It's wireless, innit? Get with the program. Your first car. Mine was a Peugeot 205 with a 1.5 litre diesel engine. It wasn't very fast. 0 to 60 could be achieved only by driving off a very high cliff. But it was my first car and I loved it. Not the car itself, more what it represented, what it gave me. Freedom. Your first beer. I was 15 when I had my first beer. I was at a family party and my uncle bought me a pint of cider. He's got a lot to answer for actually. Then of course, not too long after your first beer, you'll get your first hangover. I am never drinking again. Yeah, right. The first time you get stoned at a party at uni. Alright. Oh, yeah, cheers mate. Yeah. Don't worry, it's just a pretend one. My mum might watch this. Your first job interview. I hated my first job interview. Hated it. I got about 2 minutes into the interview and I realised that I didn't want this job. I remember thinking to myself, I ain't spent 4 years at university to come and work at a place like this. Finished the interview and as I was leaving, one guy said to the other guy, well, I think that's a no. I hadn't even left the room. Imagine that, being turned down for a job that you didn't even want. Job interviews are weird though, aren't they? Every interview you ever have, they'll always ask you the same question. What are your weaknesses? And when they say, what are your weaknesses? What you're meant to do is play the game a little bit and say, oh well, I must admit I do have one weakness. Sometimes I can be a little bit too dedicated to the job, you know. And they'll look at each other and they'll write in their notepads and they'll go, oh, that's a good one, good answer, yeah. Right, I know that now, of course I do. First interview though, I didn't know this. What are your weaknesses? Well, I must admit I am rather partial to a bit of Turkish delight. Didn't go down well. Your first lockdown. Remember the first lockdown? Lockdown 1. That was the best lockdown, wasn't it? Everybody just getting drunk every night. Brilliant. The sequels haven't really come up to the same standard, if you ask me. I think lockdowns 2 and 3. It's as if the director had run out of ideas and he was just churning out the same stuff over and over. Get about halfway through lockdown 3, you just get bored and you can't wait for it to end. It's a bit like the Beverly Hills Cop trilogy, really. Sometimes, though, I think it can seem, as you get a little bit older, that the amount of firsts that you experience might sometimes seem like it's a little bit less than before. You know, like the amount of times you see something brand new for the first time is a bit less. Or the amount of times that you experience something new for the first time is a bit less. But then I think, actually, that's okay. All you got to do is pick the things that you love doing the most and do them as often as you can. And you know what? Not too long from now, we're probably going to be able to do all those things all over again. Believe it or not, but in the not too distant future, it's probably going to actually matter what day of the week it is again. And when it does, we'll be able to go out and do all those things that we love, and also experience a whole load of new firsts. And you know what? I cannot wait.